Hey everybody, this is Craig Cottle, Director of Nature Reliance School. I am regularly asked, what should somebody do to make sure that they don't get injured, hurt, or die in a wilderness survival situation? I've got a few things I'd like to share with you that I am certain if we would all do these, we would spend more time outside, enjoy ourselves, and not have trouble. I like to approach the subject of survival from mindset, skills, tactics, and gear. Meaning I don't want to be dependent upon a gear piece because gear is ultimately going to fail. And when it fails, what do? Mindset. This is what you need to do from a mindset perspective, is prepare yourself now for the eventuality that you will be in a survival situation. Meaning you need to stress yourself in such a way that you are backed up with safety. That means you need to train in your skills, practice your skills. If you exercise, maybe run, go run for the day in the rain. Don't let that force you into the gym and run on a treadmill. You need to be in a position where you learn how to steel yourself, get a stronger gut reaction to being outside so that you can be more prepared mentally, so that you can control your ego, so that you can be more aware of your surroundings. So any number of things that you can do when you learn how to deal with stress, you can calm yourself, make adequate decisions, and do what needs to be done in a wilderness situation so that you can stay safe. All right, go to any survival school, pick up a survival-related book or watch videos on YouTube, watch TV shows for that matter, and you're gonna see people that really focus a lot of attention on skills, for good reason. We need to have the skills available to us so that we can recreate what happens in a wilderness-related event, for example. The problem with focusing solely on skills is once you have those skills, you cannot put yourself in a position that is exactly like what people find themselves in wilderness survival. I did a ton of research for my book, and time after time after time again, there were people who had decent skill sets, were outdoorsmen, outdoors women, people that knew how to make their way in the outdoors, had good survival skills, but small little things happened and it forced them to get stressed where they started making poor decisions. And once those poor decisions were made, it just had a snowball effect and they ended in tragedy. Here's how you can overcome that. Practice your skills under stress. And I'm not talking about the stress of competing against others. That's what most schools do, and that's the way most people do it to test themselves. I'm talking about weather conditions. I'm talking about injuries to your body. You know, how do you make a boulder a fire if your primary arm is broken? Can you do that? Do you practice that? Can you use a ferro rod, for example, to make a fire if only one of your arms is working? Do you have the ability to set up a shelter if your leg is broken? Let's say your eyes are out. Let's say it's dark and you don't have light. You need to practice your skills under stress so you're prepared when that stress happens to you. Tactics is nothing more than developing a strategy and or a plan to affect a certain end. Therefore, tactics is not just necessarily guns and bang bang and military law enforcement type activity. It's basically you making a plan and working that plan so that you can survive. The thing that happens most often is that we forego in survival training, because everybody goes to survival training or trains on their own, but they don't ever regularly employ the people that surround them. Here's a thing that comes up a lot. We have a class. Let's say we have a class at Nature Reliance School. We have 20 people in it. Dad comes to the class or husband comes to the class. More often than not, it's males. But their wife, their kids don't come. What happens when they have to involve their children in a real world disaster preparedness or survival situation? What do? You've got to fix that. You need to make sure that you engage your family as well as whoever it is that you live by, whether you're in an apartment building in New York City. Work with the people that live around you so that you know you have the ability to work with others. That's developing a strategy and a plan, and you need to work that plan. Last but not least, let's consider gear. Gear is, oh my goodness, gear drives me crazy. It's needed. It makes your life a lot easier. But when we become dependent upon gear, then we run the risk of when that gear is lost or broken or not in our possession for whatever reason, what do? That is why I am a big fan of studying the indigenous culture of the area in which you live. Study how Native Americans lived in your area so that you know how to find food, how they got water. Are there things that you can do to get water without having to have a water filter or purify it or boil it? Are there things that you can do for a shelter that the indigenous cultures did? You need to make sure you take your kit with you. Your EDC, what I refer to as the Tier 1 kit. If you don't know what all that is, then get my book. It's got everything listed in it. And what I mean by that is you have the kit available to you when bad situations occur, but more importantly, if you don't have it and something happens, you're not stressed out and you have a plan and you can start to work that plan without the gear. Last, but absolutely positively, certainly not least, this is probably two of the most important things that I can get across to you. Number one, if you're involved in a situation where you have what's referred to as death by GPS, where GPS takes you off in a wrong turn, you get stuck, or you can't get back to where you were planning on going, stay with the car. Stay with the vehicle. Because once you leave that vehicle, the people from the research that I've done, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of cases that I researched for my book, people that left the car are the ones that died, people that stayed with the car were the ones that lived. So if that happens to you, stay with the car. Number two, this is just as important. Whenever you go outdoors, whenever you go into an area you're unfamiliar with, or maybe even an area you're familiar with that is in a rural setting, make sure you tell someone where you're going and when you expect to return. In that way, if something happens to you and you do not return at the prescribed time, somebody knows and they can get help to you more sooner than later. All these things, mindset, skills, tactics, and gear, and the last two things I told you are the things that will keep a lot of people alive if we just employ them in your life and make sure that you get outside more because you'll be more comfortable. As always with Nature Reliance School, come on, join in, let's learn together.